Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be going over how I was able to render this image using Redshift very quickly when it has well over 50 million polygons in it. So the latest release of Cinema 4D, which is R20 currently, has some new features in it that now enable us to create images like these. Not only just enable us, but make them practical as well to create and make it possible to iterate very quickly on these images. So as you can see here, I have this image which took the 11 minutes and 30 seconds basically to render out, and this is the final image here. But if I disable the water, which has some nice reflections in it, you're going to see that it took about half that time, so 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So as you can see, it's pretty quick without the water for how heavy the scene is with 70 million polygons or whatever it is that it has with the trees here. That's very fast to render out. And as I step back through some of these images, you're going to see that these two images are basically the same. Settings were very similar for render, but as I go back to my basic settings, which you're going to see here just in a second, I'm going to drop from 10 minutes or 11 minutes down to only 40 seconds to render out. So as I step back here, you can see as I went through the process of creating these different images, the only thing that really changes between this image and this one, besides the trees moving a little bit, is in the reflections here. And that's just from turning up the settings, but you can see you get a good idea of what your reflections are going to look like just from the default minimum samples that come with Cinema 4D and Redshift, and it renders out extremely quickly, so you can iterate very fast and get pretty close to what you're actually going to get with your final render, and you can kind of look and see what you need to change and how you need to change it. But as I jump back through these, you can see they're all pretty much the same, some little tweaks here and there, but the real thing here is the render time is taking virtually nothing. So how was I able to do this? I'm going to show you. There's a few things here. So the way I was actually able to place all of these trees exactly where I wanted them in the scene, I have a video on that, so I'm not going to go over that in this video. But there's one thing in that video that I missed, which was not available to me at the time. I was using R18 in that video, and R20 is currently the latest release, and this gives us the ability to see where we're going to place all of our objects and be able to actually render them out without crashing our program and do this all very quickly. So as you can see here, I have the cloner selected, and if I go over to the instance mode, in that video I had it just as instance. Now you want to make sure that it is in multi-instance, and this will allow you to actually move around your viewport and have scenes with 50 million, 70 million, 100 million, whatever millions of polygons, and you can move around very quickly. Now if I set this back to the object mode, you're going to see we're going to get a better idea of where our objects are at, but it's moving a lot slower. So that's just why I had it set to the points mode right here, just so I can move without any lag. But you can set it to that to get an idea of what you're going to be looking at in terms of your final image and final object placement. Now the other thing that I used to create this final image was Redshift Proxies. Now there's a couple things that I will say about these. Big thing being, when you create these proxies, keep your whatever object you're using. In this case, I'm using trees. Keep whatever object you are creating a proxy of, keep that in your project file. That way that you can iterate very quickly and change things on the fly, and all you have to do is just re-export a Redshift proxy by just going up to File and Export Selected, and then just select your Redshift proxy right there. So you can change things like, for example, with this black gum, if I open up the file path here, you'll see I have two other proxy files that I used before, and if I jump back to the images, I think they're right in here. As I step up through these, you can see that these trees are changing color. So I was trying to get them to darken up in my material, and all I had to do was go back and just re-enable my ability to see these both in the render and in the viewport, and I can go and play with the materials and then re-render out just that specific tree and see how it looks and iterate very quickly. So that's just a quick tip on how you can kind of speed up your workflow and not have to, jump between scenes. I'll keep it just in one and change things on the fly very fast. Now, the other thing that I used, and which is kind of a very, very big portion of how you're able to render this out so quickly, is actually in the material. So if I open this up, I did a video on this just a little bit ago. I think it was my last video here with the Redshift sprite node. So all I have is my textures and stuff just piped into the sprite node, and that is what's actually enabling me to render all of these leaves with relative ease and super quick speeds without breaking everything. So, or without needing a render farm to be able to do this. This is all on one PC, one 1080. So very quick speeds, very fast to iterate upon if you use these techniques. This was definitely what I would do in any sort of situation like this, where you're having millions of polygons or you're having to duplicate things, objects a bunch of times would be to create the different proxies. Especially stuff with opacity, definitely use the sprite nodes, and that will enable you to render very quickly. Because without the sprite nodes, I would say to render out, I don't even know if it would work, honestly, to render out this many leaves without the sprite node enabled. If it did, it would take probably 20-30 minutes on my computer. So it wouldn't be very good for actually creating or the creative process in general. So definitely use these techniques to help you out, and hopefully that helped you kind of get an idea of how to create something so heavy in the scene, or so heavy as a scene like this. So thank you guys for watching, and check out my other videos for some more Cinema 4D tips or Redshift tips. I got a bunch of other things on my channel, and things like the sprite node I go more in depth on. So check those out if you want some more tips. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and have a good day.